One of the coolest things about playing over a slower tempo is that it gives you more options, both technically and rhythmically. You're not constrained by, your technical limitations, say only being able to play eighth notes at a fast tempo. You can now subdivide the beat further into, say, eighth note triplets, 16th notes, and depending on how technically proficient you are and how slow the tempo is, 16th note triplets and 32nd notes and even beyond. So what I'd like to do now is show you another original solo I came up with over the jazz blues progression in G that we've been studying in depth for the last several lessons here. And this is an interesting challenge because, okay, now it's slow enough where mere mortals such as myself can actually play some 16th notes. What do you do with all those notes, right? You have this methodology where you target chord tones on a beat, but then the chord changes are kind of coming by at a very measured tempo, and you're playing as if you're playing eighth notes at twice the tempo, 16th notes. So, and there's also an art of mixing up the rhythms too, right? You don't want to just come out of the gate, barreling out playing 16th notes. It kind of sounds almost a little inappropriate. You want to keep that swing feel, triplet feel. So without any more talk, here is a original solo played over medium slow jazz blues in G. All right, so we start off with this little pickup phrase heading into the first chord. It's a G13. So I'm going. So I start off with triplets to kind of acknowledge the underlying swing feel. And then this is a good little device here. You use the minor third to the major third, or think of it as a sharp 9 to the major third. And that's just straight G major pentatonic, right? But you notice that right on the downbeat of that first bar, I immediately go to 16th notes because I'm trying to give a preview of what's to come, with the 16th notes. And it's almost like a march rhythm, da-da-da, and also kind of giving a drummer a cue if he wants to start going from da-da-da-da into da-da-da-da-da-da-da, giving him a nice big cue here. And a little vibrato on that G note. It is blues after all, right? Jazz blues. And that's over the 4 chord, C7 in bar 2. And that's interesting. I'm actually kind of outlining a B flat major 7 flat 5 arpeggio. Sorry. Over B flat, that sounds odd, but over C, that gives you a C13 sound. And again, you notice I'm back to the triplet rhythm. So I started off. And then in right before bar 3, I do a little pickup note. And then on bar 3, I launch into a long string of unbroken 16th notes. Okay, so what I'm doing here is superimposing a F major 9 arpeggio. So if you play that over a D bass note, that first note on a downbeat is the 9th, and then the minor 3rd, the 5th, the flat 7, the 9th, the 11th. That's heard against a D, right? And then a nice little chromatic line. And then more chromatics. And then on a downbeat of bar 4, that B note is the major third of G. So as I've said before, your best bet always is thirds. You can't go wrong. You get the sweetest sound, right? Vocal harmonies, horn harmonies are usually in thirds. Chromatic, arpeggi, and now more chromatics. Now this is interesting. On bar 4 over the G7 altered, the chord progression at this point is going D minor 7 or D minor 9, G7 altered. So I'm playing. That's the G diminished whole tone scale, also known as G superlocrian mode. And what that is just an A flat melodic minor scale. But starting on G, so it's 7th mode. Played it over a G bass note. You get all those G altered dominant tones, namely the sharp 9, the flat 9, the sharp 5, and the flat 5. And here I'm kind of thinking chordally, like a D flat arpeggio over G. Wow, that gives you, the 7th, the flat 9, and the sharp 11. It's like that cool sound, when you play triads and tritones. Then on bar 5, when we go to the 4 chord, C7 again, I go back to a distinctly bluesy thing. I go, right? Always bring it back. When you're playing jazz blues, the tendency is to get too jazzy and not bluesy enough, but some double stops, finger slides, right? Little decorative stylistic ornamentations. That's the 9th of C, D, and B flat is the 7th. So. And that's like the G blues scale. And then in bar 6, the chord is going from C7 to C sharp diminished 7th. Remember the sharp 4 diminished 7 we looked at? One option for that is to play a diminished 7th arpeggio. When in doubt, play the arpeggio that directly goes with the chord. But what I'm doing here is playing the half whole diminished scale. Actually, the whole half is starting on C sharp, but I'm doing it starting a little bit lower. This is a symmetrical scale, by the way. It's E whole half, sorry. It's also G whole half. It's also B flat whole half. And D flat whole half. It can be a little tricky. I find it's good to just think of it as being one thing, with the understanding that it's going to be symmetrical in minor thirds. Okay, so that's the flat 5. Over that bass note, you're hearing ba ba ba. And then I target that D note, which is the 5th of G. The root motion of the chords is going G7 over D, C7, B minor 7, E7 altered, A minor 7, D7 altered, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, right? So. That's cool. Over C, I'm instantly creating like a C9 sound. So we're going from like that G7 sound. Now for B minor 7 in bar 8 here, I go. I'm actually kind of thinking B minor 7 flat 5. To me, that has more tension to it. You know, so you're going G7 over D, C7, and you could just do the B minor 7, which sounds a little tamer, I think, but B minor 7 flat 5. So that's a B minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio with, I guess B Locrian would be the mode, which is the 7th mode of C major. By the way, anytime you are playing over a minor 7 flat 5 chord, also known as a half diminished 7 chord, you play that 7th mode of the major scale. So B minor 7 flat 5 is the 7th chord in the key of C major. So I can play the C major scale starting on B. Okay. Another option here, I could have. So that sounds more like a B minor 7. It's a little brighter sounding, but I chose the darker. And that's over E, E7 altered. Now I'm playing E superlocrian, aka E diminished whole tone, which is the 7th mode of F melodic minor. So going from the B minor 7, and I'm playing the B Locrian with a little chromatic descent, right? That's E superlocrian. Gives you all those really poignant tension tones. The 3rd, sharp 9, flat 9, flat 7, sharp 5, major 3rd, sharp 9 or minor 3rd, flat 9. And then when I finally hit this E note, that's when the chord is changed to A minor 7. So now I'm landing on a chord tone, right? E is the 5th of A. So. And then coming down the home stretch here in bar 9, I'm doing the old tonicizing the 2 chord thing. So you know, dancing around the A minor as if that were my home key temporarily, my temporary tonic. I'm using the A harmonic minor scale. Notice I picked this E note twice. Again, we did that last month. We looked at. It's totally cool to play the same note repeatedly, reiterate a note. You don't have to always change notes, right? And then when the chords go into D7 altered, which is sharp 9, flat 9, or you know, sharp 5, sharp 9, flat 5, flat 5, flat 9. That's one of my favorite licks there. I'm playing an A flat arpeggio over to D bass note, and that, like we looked at earlier, is giving me that kind of tritone thing. And then D superlocrian, which is E flat melodic minor's 7th mode. Obviously, I use that one a lot. That's one of my favorites. I think a lot of people do, a lot of jazz musicians do, because it gives you all those. And notice I'm using a lot of pull-offs on the way down. This is a guitar. It doesn't have to be a drum. You don't have to articulate every single note. You can slur, pull off. That's what horn players do, right? They slur a lot of notes. They don't tongue every single note. And then bar 11, when we're doing our turnaround, G7, E7 altered, A minor 7, D7 altered. Again, I'm kind of going back to this march rhythm motif. And then that's my little flash, a little bit of a 16th note triplet there. And you how that resolves to A minor 7 in bar 12. So G sharp, the 3rd of E, Again, I'm using a diminished 7th arpeggio to get a flat 9 sound. So the chord is E, and I'm kind of thinking D diminished 7th, or F diminished 7th. But with the scalar element thrown in. Diminished whole tone, that 7th mode of melodic minor. And then bar 12, that's an A minor 11 arpeggio, which may be thought of as C major 9. Sounds nicer for C, but it sounds even nicer over A minor, right? You get that. That's the final money line there, right? Over to D7 altered chord. Beat 3 of bar 12. Again, D superloquian. You get so much mileage out of it because it really paints that harmonic color melodically. And a double pull off. There's my 1/32 note, my 2 32nd notes in the whole thing. Another pull off. And how that resolves nicely to the 5th of G. And that's my ending. I do this nice little harmonious 6th interval. A little shake on it. Kind of sounds like the beginning of, Soul Man.